Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of the Coal Scene. I'm Chris Hamilton, your host, and today we are going to continue our discussion of one of the most important issues facing the state today, the role of coal mining and in particular surface mining in our state's future. Our discussion today will focus on surface mining and how surface mines are typically returned to a higher and better land use and the role that former mine sites play in developing a sustainable post-mining economy for the coalfield region. Joining me today are Jeff Herholt of the West Virginia Division of Energy and Jeff Woods of the West Virginia Office of Coalfield Economic Development. Gentlemen, I'd like to welcome both of you to our show. And Jeff, why don't we start with you and just talk generally about the State Department of Energy, what it does, where it's located, some of its objectives.
The West Virginia Division of Energy was created by the legislature in 2007. We became effective July 1, 2001. The governor asked me to become the director of the Division of Energy during that month. We are part of the West Virginia Department of Commerce. We were initiated earlier, we were part of the West Virginia Development Office. The Energy Efficiency Program moved from the West Virginia Development Office to the West Virginia Division of Energy and joined the Office of Coalfield Community Development. We also have administrative authority. I serve as chairman of the West Virginia Public Energy Authority. And our duties constitute the array of energy activities that are in or taking place in West Virginia. Energy efficiency programs, renewable energy programs, and certainly support for the coal programs, advancing coal as a future energy source.
I know a lot of people think that the state like West Virginia that has such an intensive energy producing state should have maybe had a division of energy a long time ago, but we're very fortunate that the governor and the legislature has had the foresight to create a division of energy, given again our place in world energy affairs.
Yeah, Chris, certainly without a doubt, we are an energy leader. I mean, people certainly focus on our role of coal. Coal is our state's most significant energy resource. We currently export 73% of the coal we produce. We export 50% of the natural gas we produce. Additionally, when you look at renewable energy, we have the largest wind farm in the east there in Grant County at the Ned Power Project. We have substantial, over 1,000 megawatts of wind in development in West Virginia. We have 300 megawatts of hydropower that's either in place or getting permitted by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. We have substantial interest in biomass. West Virginia is the second most forested state in the lower 48. We have a lot of biomass opportunities. All these are certainly going to be done in concert with coal. One of the most significant developments in coal has been the Clean Coal Project in Mingo County, the Transgas Coal to Liquids Project, making 3 million tons of coal a year into 18,000 barrels of oil per day. And this project recently came out of the Department of Environmental Protection's Air Quality Program with a draft air permit. And of note is that this permit is for a minimum pollutant source. And this demonstrates how far clean coal technologies have come, and we're certainly very gratified to have West Virginia as the host state for this first demonstration of a clean coal to liquids technology.
Excellent. I know that project was applauded by people, not only in the coal industry, but throughout all businesses throughout West Virginia. You mentioned a couple of things. First of all, we do export a lot of our coal. So by having a coal to liquid plant right here within the state's boundaries, we actually will increase our own state's consumption of coal, which is an obvious win-win.
Right.
I also read recently, and I believe your office was involved with the new carbon sequestration project that was announced up at the Mountaineer plant. Likewise, it's interesting, and the state of West Virginia needs to be on the leading edge of those related technologies as well.
Sure. And the project as is currently in place at Mountaineer, we're the first, we host the first coal plant that actually produces CO2 and stores it underground at the site. This is the first coal plant in the world to actually accomplish that. Admittedly, now it's just 1.5% of the emissions, but the goal is to increase that to equivalent emissions from a 200 and some megawatt power plant. So we're very happy. We know that that's an important technology. We're gratified that it's happening here in our state.
Well, again, it's been said that no other state is going to gain or stands as much to lose as West Virginia. Sure. And its coal producing industry here, based on the success or failure of carbon sequestration as we move forward and try to deal with the carbon footprint.
Sure. And it's hard for, when you say put carbon underground, first you have to get it out of the waste stream. Only 20% of the gases that come out of a stack pipe are actually CO2. So the first technology challenge is to get that 20% of the emissions, then to liquefy it. It has to be in a compressed volume before it's placed underground. So it's liquefied and then injected underground.
Excellent. Jeff Woods, let's talk a little bit about the Coalfield Development Office.
Sure.
If you don't mind giving just a little bit of a kind of a summary of that office and the role that it plays.
Sure. The Office of Coalfield Community Development was started in 1999 under the Underwood administration. Its purpose was to advance surface mine sites for post-development after the mining had ceased. In 2007, it was brought into the Division of Energy when the Division of Energy started, predominantly to look at other energy opportunities as well. And then another component that the office has is land use master plans within the counties. The county's role to create these plans for post-development opportunities, and our job is to try to assist those, which there was some legislation that came out recently about that. I've been in the role since about December of last year, and it's been fantastic. I work with 30 counties from Brook to McDowell, and to be able to work with these counties, some of which that never had flat land opportunities, to be honest, including my home county of Clay County, to be able to work with these about building new projects, whether they be community development projects or economic development projects. It's really exciting.
Well, good. I'm glad to have you on the energy team, so to speak, and we were involved with drafting that legislation. Our industry was very much supportive. We have seen over the past probably decade now more and more emphasis placed on the front end planning and of mining areas and development with local officials, local development offices, and we're making some inroads. When you think about it, it only makes sense while that mining company's there, operating that heavy equipment, actually putting roads and utilities and other infrastructure in place to sustain the mining operation. It only makes sense to involve planning officials so that perhaps some changes in the mining plan can be made while that equipment's there, while all that earth moving is taking place, so as to accommodate some post-mine land development.
Especially in making sure to keep the infrastructure in place as well. I mean, some of the sites that I go to, they have three-phase power, access to public water, all these things that are there on potentially the only flat land in the entire county. And so being able to work with these, with the industry as well, with local development authorities has been fantastic, and some really great opportunities that I think in a long-term strategy we'll be able to see some successes come out of the office.
You mentioned your home county of Clay, and it just provoked a couple thoughts. First of all, I think Clay County, like several others in the southern part of the state, is almost totally dependent upon surface mining. If I'm not mistaken, I read somewhere where Clay County is like 90 or 95% surface production versus underground production.
Yeah, they're currently now looking at updating their land use master plan. Under the legislation, counties that have existing plans had to update them every so few years. They've taken the opportunity to update it immediately, and they're working with CONSOL and other coal operators that are in the area, predominantly CONSOL and the FOLA operation, to look at opportunities for development. It's been CONSOL and other coal companies have been great to work with, to the extent if there's a prospect that comes into town that we have the ability to take them to these sites. They've been more than happy to work with us, and these are essentially large construction sites. These are areas where safety comes first, as you well know, and to be able to accommodate us and work with us on those. I've had several trainings on sites throughout this year, and we'll have a few more to go, but it's been great.
Well, good. And I understand you're making the rounds out there throughout most of the southern counties, and as you say, there's northern counties involved as well, and certainly provides an exciting blueprint going forward. And Jeff, you mentioned the coal to liquids plant in Mingo County. I believe that will be placed. The plan calls for that to be built on a former mine site as well, doesn't it?
Right. And certainly, you know, that Mingo County has been probably the most aggressive / imaginative county we have in the reuse of surface mine lands. I mean, what Mike Witt has been able to bring about to play in McDowell County is very impressive.
Another project that Jeff mentioned earlier, the wind project, that's also on surface mine sites. Portions of it are.
In Grant County.
In Grant County, that's correct. So it's definitely an opportunity that's been used, and obviously that wasn't in someone's land use master plan originally, but that just shows that the opportunities abound from new sites and old sites.
I know it's extremely unfair, and it's been a pet peeve of mine for some time, but a lot of the media outlets will focus on that active mining site where coal was actually being produced, and they will often show a picture with the heavy equipment on site, or they will show a place that is actually being blasted at the current time.
Sure.
And they seldom come back and show us what that site looks like 3 months later, a year later. And we have some extraordinarily qualified equipment operators that are regrading, revegetating, reconfiguring those lands constantly. And the mine reclamation or restoration phase is a constant process that quickly follows the impacts made from the production phase. And people don't realize it, but we truly do rebuild these mountains here unless there's a variance granted for a commercial, industrial, or recreational site.
Sure. And
we do have a number of those sites throughout the entire state, not just in the southern part of the state. I know Milan Park up in Morgantown, just a couple miles from Mountaineer Stadium, is on a former mine site.
Sure.
The FBI Center in Clarksburg on a former mine site. The Earl Ray Tomlin Conference Center in Logan County, the Logan County Airport. I know there was another 5,800 foot landing strip airport in Mingo County, just announced earlier this fall.
You mentioned earlier the reforestation techniques, and we concentrate on the conventional economic development things where we're going to leave it flat for a business park or for different purposes, and a lot of times the economic value of that reforestation is overlooked. I mean, the industry and academia and the Office of Surface Mining have come a long way through the Appalachian Regional Reforestation Initiative. And what we've done within the office is try to promote that initiative to our local economic developers. So when they're looking at land use planning, if the coal operator and the landowner want to use those reforestation techniques to help bring back timber for future use, help promote that within our land use master plans. And so that has an economic value in itself and really plays into a lot of the industry that's in West Virginia through the timber industry.
Well, what's often forgotten about is as we focus on post-mine land development, we forget that as that active operation is there, it's a major economic driver for the
Absolutely.
region in and of
Without a doubt,
itself.
sure.
And if it wasn't for the mining operation, a lot of these sites and a lot of these post-mine land developments would actually be cost prohibitive.
Yeah.
Earth moving land configuration
Right.
is clearly one of the most expensive components of a development of that magnitude, particularly in those areas that are a little remote, a little rural. So
A nice anecdotal story to go along with that. We had a company that was looking in the central part of the state, and so whenever he was looking at hiring employees, he wanted to hook up with an insurance agent. So he started asking questions from the insurance agent, what kind of people do you cover, and so on and so forth. And essentially the insurance agent said, coal mining. And that's it. If it wasn't for mining, I wouldn't have a business here. And so if you want to look at healthcare in southern West Virginia, it wouldn't exist as far as insurance if it wasn't for the mining industry.
Jeff, you mentioned Mike Witt, and
Sure.
of course I've known Mike for about 20 years, maybe a little longer. Had the opportunity to work with him while he was here in the legislature, and I'm glad you mentioned Mike, because he deserves a lot of credit.
Without a doubt, yes.
Kudos for his the passion
Right.
and the diligence that he has had as a local county developer in Mingo County. In fact, I know for certain that the master land use plan that was advanced by Governor Manchin and enacted by the legislature this year was in fact patterned after Mike's work.
Sure.
And what they've done in Mingo County. And it's truly amazing when you go down to the site and see what all has taken place, and to see all the development and post-mine land jobs that are in place down there today.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just if I may, the list of things that he's done in, it's a wood industrial park, air transportation park, King Coal Highway, a consolidated high school, motorsports complex, Twisted Gun golf course, and a 5-acre horticultural demonstration. Amazing.
And that's going on.
Yes, that is it's real stuff happening now.
Real stuff. Some completed, like the hardwood factory
Right.
there is amazing. You go inside, it's state of the art. It's you'll find no other facility like that. Right in Mingo County.
Yeah, I'm going to owe Mingo County franchising costs, because counties that don't have land use master plans, I'm using that as a template
Right.
to carry around and show the evolution from their first plan to where it is today, and where they started with a basic plan that just went away from roads to the plans that talk about all the projects that they have and the future projects that they're looking at. And you can see how the planning process has evolved and how successful they've been. And there are great projects, and the local economic development teams really need to be touted. Rachel Lester, along with Senator Browning and others, in the Coalfield Expressway, the prison that they just put in McDowell County, Larry Lodato within Boone County, and the regional headquarters for Massey being put on a surface mine site. Not to mention that 90-some%, last time I talked to Larry, he told me this, 90-some% of the people in Boone County now have public water. And so,
Wow.
being able to get that infrastructure out. And what runs Boone County? It's coal mining. So there's a lot of success stories across the board, and every day I talk to a local economic developer about a project that they're working on that involves a surface mine site.
Well, the other thing that a lot of these large area surface mines account for is restoring or reclaiming some of the less than standard by today's standards reclamation practices from years ago. There's a number of the larger area surface mines that have removed miles and miles of old high walls that were standing. I know there's been a lot of mine fires extinguished by some of the current operations, and some of the water's been cleaned up as well. So, with the proper planning and coordination, it's truly a win-win for everybody. And if I'm not mistaken, the legislation that was passed that we were talking about that requires the master land use plans, I believe it also acknowledged alternative energy sources and highway development as acceptable post-mine land plans as well for the first time, at least in our states,
Right.
and probably for the first time. It's probably unprecedented. There's
Yeah.
probably no other state that has that as an
Right.
accepted post-mine land use.
One of the things that's been a little bit exciting as far as these projects too is as some of the extra credit within the portfolio bill that surface mine operations get for alternative and renewable energy projects on surface mine sites. And so we've got some activity looking at different kinds of projects that can go on those sites, and lo and behold, the infrastructure that those sites have. I mean, we're talking about an energy project.
Mhm.
It would make sense that that they would have the infrastructure in place, and then on top of that, doing some research and development, looking at there's plantings of switchgrass and miscanthus on 3 or 4 sites throughout the state through Paul Zukavich's program at WVU. So,
Yep.
So if we put this all in proper perspective or in proper sequence, with the right planning and coordination, we can mine the coal. We can have a number of coal jobs sustained for whatever period of time, and then with the proper planning, we could also have an entire renewable energy source designed that takes root and follows the mining as well. So in essence, that site produces energy of a variety of
Sure.
types
Yeah.
for well into the future at least.
and everybody's at the table: the industry, the landowner, the local leadership. And the one thing that I've done from reminding people that I work for the state, and I'm not going to tell people in Welch, and as I go there tomorrow to talk to them about theirs, exactly how to build their plan. I'll give them recommendations from my standpoint as an economic developer, but I want to work with them to make sure that it's a plan that's going to work for them. So.
We mentioned earlier, Jeff, maybe you'll know, we talk about rebuilding and trying to backstack these areas that are mined to the extent possible, and then only if you have a variance can you leave it somewhat level or rolling. How big of a commodity is flat land in some of these regions?
Well, certainly, especially in the southern part of the state, flatlands are a rare bird. I mean, there's these surface mine projects, the large surface mine projects, mountaintop mining projects, can do a significant assistance in southern West Virginia by giving them some flat land to work with. And again, it's not, people. It isn't always immediate. It isn't always that there's somebody waiting for that flat land, but it becomes a resource for the area.
I know when the Surface Mining Act 30 years ago now was created, was passed by Congress, I know that the kinds of things seeing today become reality were envisioned back then, but I don't think to the magnitude or extent that they've actually taken place and developed. I know from experience that during the earlier phases or earlier places and when the Surface Mine Act was first being implemented, that mining companies were required routinely upon the completion of the reserve to pull all the roads out, and convert all the roads to a more rolling landscape. They were required to take all the buildings down on the site and remove all the power, as part of the basic phase 1 reclamation.
Yeah.
And it just seemed such a waste.
Right.
Because once you do that and then cover it with trees or reforest the area, then it will never be developed again or made conducive for some type of development.
Sure.
Yeah,
And we've had several discussions with wind project developers about wind on these sites, and one of the things they say there has to be a good haul road in place. I mean, to get a 400-foot turbine up a mountain is quite a challenge, and there has to be flat land on the top.
Yeah, I would, from my experience as an economic developer, I cut my teeth in the Kanawha Valley, especially with the Charleston Area Alliance, And you know, one of the things that we tried to do was to save the South Charleston Technology Park, and it would be the equivalent of telling Dow or Union Carbide, once you're done manufacturing, once you're done research and development, you have to remove that infrastructure. So from an economic development standpoint, it's painful to see something like that happening when you know that that there's people that need public water, there's people that need three-phase power. There's there's so many opportunities that you have with that kind of infrastructure, and a lot of these sites, these complexes, are surface mine sites and underground sites. So often you have a substation that's close by, which is excellent for a wind project.
Sure.
Well, we came a long way, and I tell you, West Virginia used to be known as the underground mining state,
Yeah.
and it still is. I believe we're the leading underground coal-producing state in the nation today, and of course we're behind the state of Wyoming in total
bit,
coal
right,
production.
yeah.
Of course, as a lot of people allege, they're cheating out there. That's not really
Right.
mining; it's more of a agricultural
Yeah.
process when they would just scratch a little brown dirt off the top of that coal and then have 100-foot coal seams to scoop out for a couple years. But we do today. I believe close to 50%, 40-some% of our coal comes from surface operations. So over the past 20 years or so, there's been an increasing number of surface mining operations of all types, and a number of your southern counties have become more and more dependent upon surface mine
Sure.
production. Jeff, you got a real important energy conference I know you've been spending a lot of time
Sure.
on coming up. You want to talk about just
Yeah,
for a
sure.
moment?
This is the third annual Governor's Energy Summit. It'll be at December the 8th. It'll be at Stonewall Jackson Resort, starting at, registration starts at 8 o'clock in the morning. It goes to about 3:30 in the afternoon. We'll limit all presentations to 15 minutes, which is causing some issues with some of our presenters. We have a very packed agenda. This will represent a wide variety of energy development projects, both renewable energy and fossil energy that are going on now in the state. So it'll be a very worthwhile event. And if anybody wants to register, they feel free to contact Marie Butler in my office at marie.butler@wv.gov. marie.butler@wv.gov.
Well, we look forward to that December conference, and I won't take that 15-minute personally since you've extended that, or you're going to try to require everybody to stay within that
Right.
time frame. And we really appreciate the job you're doing. We look forward going forward, working as close with you as we have in the past, and both agencies have just a key role in our future, and we really appreciate it. Appreciate you taking the time to
Very good.
come by